Alright, well, hopefully the audio is good on this video. I got some concerns, but welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we're going to be going through the quarterback and the tight end rankings here for Week 10. And I did wait until after the trade deadline for all of these rankings videos. Won't impact this one so much. Nonetheless, we're going to go through some interesting usage information for both the quarterbacks and the tight ends. That information, for the most part, is gathered from the JJ Zachariason information dump that comes out every Monday, so check that stuff out. It's good. I go through it, I filter through it, and maybe add some context to some of it for you, as well as we're going to go through the injuries, my loves and fades last week, how did we do, and then we'll get into the rankings. Hey, look at that. We don't have any interesting usage stuff for the quarterbacks this week. I started reading last week's stuff. And also, let's see here. CJ Stroud suffered a concussion, so you'd anticipate that he'll probably be out, but he might not be. You never know. Jaden Daniels dislocated elbow. It was his left elbow. That is his non-throwing arm. So in terms of long-term and everything, that's good. And the New York Jets have not declared a starting quarterback yet, which tells me that it might not be Justin Fields. Nonetheless, I am currently ranking Justin Fields, and I think I'm currently ranking Kyler Murray, but it sounds like it's not going to be Kyler Murray this week. Actually, no, it's not going to be Kyler Murray. So let me fix that up before we get into the video. And also, though, before I fix that up, Brock Purdy, I'm still ranking him just because it's easier to switch the other way around, but I don't know. It doesn't seem too likely. So that just leaves us with my loves and my fades. Last week I loved Trevor Lawrence. He came through and had an all-right week, at least due to my memory, because my memory is comparing him to Jordan Love. And then I faded Bo Nix. And Bo Nix probably finished right about where I would have had him ranked. Looks like he had 18.5 fantasy points in most scoring leagues. So just barely made it over that cliff there. Had an all-right week, though, so good for you if you had to start Bo Nix. Let's go on to my first tier of quarterbacks, which is going to be the top 12 quarterbacks of the week. We got Josh Allen at the top of the list, my QB1 on the week, followed by Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Jackson Dart, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones going up against Atlanta. I am a little bit concerned about that. Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, like those, might end up moving him up ahead of Daniel Jones. It's just he's been so good on the season, and, you know, that offensive line might be able to handle Atlanta just fine. And then at my QB11, we got Baker Mayfield going against New England. It's not a great matchup. He had been disappointing as of late. If he still doesn't have, he's not going to have Mike Evans. If Chris Godwin's still out, he's got a limited amount of guys he's working with. Running back situation, too. If it's Rachaad White, that doesn't help in terms of getting him down the field more easily. So all those factors, could work against Baker Mayfield this week, or maybe they'll help him out. Either way, not the best matchup this week. I struggled to find too many fades or loves really here in the quarterback rankings. I think a lot of it's fairly intuitive right now this week. And then Jared Goff, I do love this week going up against Washington. It is one of those matchups where, as we've seen plenty of times, it could just be a lot of running back touchdowns. And Jared Goff doesn't get any touchdowns, and he throws for 240 yards or something. That is always possible, but I'll take the chance on him throwing some touchdowns this week against Washington. Namely, so if you watch the wide receivers video, which already came out, by the way, same with the running backs video. Those both came out yesterday. I like Jameson Williams this week. The second tier of quarterbacks starts off with Jordan Love going up against Philadelphia, Sam Darnold going up against Arizona, tougher defense than you think. I do have Brock Purdy, like I said, ranked right now, going up against the Rams. There's some upside to be had there. I would just trust him over J.J. McCarthy, but if it is not Brock Purdy, I think I would move him down maybe to the bottom of this tier or outside of this tier. J.J. McCarthy going up against Baltimore, so there's some upside there. Justin Fields always has some upside if he is the starter this week, although that is not a guarantee. And then Jacoby Brissett, basically actually ranked him just as I had Kyler. So he ends up here as quarterback 18. This is going to be a pretty quick quarterback section here. So that's going to bring us on to the next tier, which is most of the rest of the quarterbacks. These are the guys where if it's a 2 quarterback league, I hope I have one of them and not any of the rest. So Marcus Mariota going up against Detroit, obviously could end up, especially garbage time type stuff. Aaron Rodgers, tough matchup, but he's been pretty good. Tua Tagovailoa, there is some upside to be had there, but it's a tough matchup. Bryce Young going up against New Orleans. Actually, they're going to run a lot probably against New Orleans, so the upside is a little bit tougher to imagine. Michael Penix, I think a good play this week. I might end up moving him up in the rankings a little bit, but, I moved him down in the rankings because Indianapolis just got Sauce Gardner. I did have him at the top of this tier, I believe, and then I bumped him down because of Sauce Gardner. Davis Mills here going up against Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence going up against Houston, tough matchup. Geno Smith going up against Denver, tough matchup there as well. And that's going to bring us on to Dillon Gabriel, Tyler Shuck are the... Even in two quarterback, I hope it's not one of them. And I might be thinking about playing a different position over them if I have a solid other super flex option in those types of leagues. So that is going to bring us on to the tight ends. And if you've made it this far in the video, please don't forget to like the video. That helps me so very much. And commenting, let me know what you think of the rankings, where you think I got somebody right or wrong, especially wrong. Very much appreciated. And if you provide some reasoning for that, it is taken into account. So for the tight ends, we did have some injuries. Cole Kmet came back. I wish he had not come back because I ended up dropping Colston Loveland to try to play Evan Ingram, of all people. So that's like a 36-point swing or something massive. That did not help me. So that sucks. But yeah, Cole Kmet suffered a concussion, so expect him to be out a week. So let's go Colston Loveland if you got him. And then Tucker Kraft, torn ACL, going to be out for the rest of the season. That sucks, but that does bring in a new tight end into the conversation. Not loving him this week, though, but still somebody would be worthy going out and grabbing and checking out. For some interesting usage information for the tight ends, Cincinnati has allowed 12 touchdowns to tight ends. No other team has allowed more than 6. George Kittle's target shares since returning from injury have been 8.7%, 16.1%, and 17.4%, so they are going up. Once again, I'd really feel more comfortable if we could get Brock Purdy back for George Kittle. Darnell Washington is out targeting both Pat Freiermuth, and he's very, very close to getting the same amount of targets as Jonnu Smith in, I think that's over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Tyler Warren hasn't hit 70 yards in a game since doing that twice in the first 2 weeks, and I do think that has something to do with Josh Jones having gotten healthier throughout that time period. He did miss another week in there too, but week or two maybe. I think it was just a week. I think it was a concussion for that one. And, still gotten a little bit banged up, but nonetheless, he came into the season injured. I think that had to do a little bit with that. Tyler Warren just getting explosive on the scene, and I expect Josh Downs to continue to eat Tyler Warren into Tyler Warren's upside. Brock Bowers is clearly feeling healthy again, so that's fantastic, is it not? He's going to be my tight end too this week. Isn't that fun to see, you Brock Bowers owners? Ugh. All right, so Trey McBride is my tight end 1 this week, followed by Brock Bowers. Dalton Kincaid, look, some good tight end matchups this week. Going up against Miami, fantastic. Dallas Goedert going up against Green Bay, fantastic. Tyler Warren, it hasn't been the hottest, and Atlanta is a really, really tough tight end matchup through the first 8 weeks of the season. They were the worst tight end matchup. I do suspect some of that has to do with their opponents. Implied point total touchdown upside is working in favor for Tyler Warren here still. Still like him, but I had to give the nod to a couple guys in a better, and I thought of moving Tyler all the way down to tight end 8 behind Kyle Pitts, my love of the week. But we got Sam Laporta still ahead of that. Touchdown upside at the end of the day for tight ends. You really want those touchdowns, so that helped him push him up in a good matchup against tight ends. Even better matchup against for tight ends, not against tight ends, is Oronde Gasson going up against Pittsburgh. That's a really, really good matchup there. Which brings us on to my love of the week in Kyle Pitts. Also a good matchup here against Indianapolis for tight ends, but I think probably going to be better going forward with Sauce Gardner having joined the Indianapolis Colts. I would assume it's going to be a little bit harder. Maybe you take a few, you don't target 40% of the time to Drake London like you've been doing often enough. So I think Kyle Pitts, who's already been getting targeted pretty heavily, could be in line for another good day in terms of the targets, and hopefully you turn that into some good stuff. And then George Kittle's going to be at the bottom of this tier. Talked about that. It hasn't been the best since returning, but he returned from an injury. It was a pretty severe hamstring injury, so it's not too surprising that there has been an unloading period here. Hopefully that target share will continue to go up, but he's still going to make it into the first tier. That's going to bring us on to my second tier of tight ends, Colston Loveland and Theo Johnson, both of them in good matchups here to continue to do what they've been doing to some extent as of late at the very least. So I think that they're a tier above the rest of these guys, including this next tier, Dalton Schultz, who's been good on the season. Failed you the 1 week where everybody did play him, but it's a fine matchup here. Harold Fannin, David Njoku, not the worst matchup, but there's still kind of a little pull between the two. It's hard to trust them too much. And then Hunter Henry's going to make it in this tier in a fine matchup against Tampa Bay. Nothing to be afraid of in that matchup on the season. He's been fairly strong, better than Njoku, but targets haven't quite been there. But it's a good enough matchup here, plus some touchdown upside compared to the rest of the guys in this tier. So, yeah, he made it into that tier. That's going to bring us on to the guys who I'm less comfortable with. Zach Ertz is still going to make it in the front of this tier. I just moved him down, though, before recording. Once I had to choose a fade, I was like, you know what? Yeah, Zach Ertz here. Detroit's on the poorer side of matchups for tight ends. Not a great matchup. And then you got the quarterback situation, which hasn't been good for him with Mariota at quarterback either. The implied point total, not the best. Evan Ingram going against Vegas. I would love to put him higher, but we're coming off of a 0-point week. Yes, it was a tough matchup. So looking forward to brighter days for Evan Ingram. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him if I had to, but I'd rather not. Mark Andrews going up against Minnesota, so it's not the end of the world there. You can, touchdown opportunities and stuff can be had. Juwan Johnson against Carolina, expecting them to run a whole lot, so don't love the the floor is fine. Maybe can move him up a little more. I don't know. Let me know what you think about these guys. Should Evan Ingram go ahead of Zach Ertz? Should Juwan Johnson go ahead of Zach Ertz? I think we can ignore we cannot expect 2 touchdowns from Mark Andrews. T.J. Hockenson going up against Baltimore, so there is some upside with that matchup. And then Cade Otton, if Chris Godwin does not return this week, there is some upside there for Cade Otton against New England, but not a great tight end matchup as far as I recall it. That'll bring us on to this next little tier. We got Luke Musgrave at the top of this tier, so actually maybe New England's a fine tight end matchup. I can verify that. Yes, New England is actually a good tight end matchup. That's why he stayed in this tier. And I might get a little bit more bold on him. New England actually in half PPR, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th best tight end matchup. But Luke Musgrave, bad tight end matchup. Mason Taylor, bad tight end matchup. AJ Barner, not actually a decent tight end matchup. Tyler Higbee in a average-ish tight end matchup there. But, so these are the 2 that I would most likely want to play out of this tier, but I'm not expecting them to have fantastic weeks. A little bit afraid of that. But, hey, the touchdown upside for Luke Musgrave is why he's at the top of the tier. I think that he has the best chance at a touchdown and, floor combination over like an A.J. Barner. Jonnu Smith, tough tight end matchup. Jatavian Sanders, good tight end matchup, I believe, or is that actually tough? But expect them to be running a lot against New Orleans nonetheless. I feel like we already said that about somebody else. Did I say that about Juwan Johnson? I said that they'd be running a lot against Carolina. That's not true. I think I said that. Darnell Washington making it onto the list because, he has been getting targeted plenty for several weeks in a row now. Isaiah Likely, Elijah Arroyo, Pat Freiermuth, and Will Disley's going to make it into a tier all on his own. Cole Kmet, not currently ranking him because of that concussion. Brenton Strange, Darren Waller, not going to be coming back this week, so they're out. And the bye week guys, Cincinnati, Dallas, Kansas City, and Tennessee all on bye. That is it for the quarterbacks and the tight ends. Thank you so very much for tuning on in. I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Don't forget, I do stream live Thursday afternoons, evenings, 1 hour, 45 minutes prior to kickoff, and 3 hours prior to kickoff on Sunday mornings for all of your start-sit questions. And you can find my most up-to-date rankings at that point in time, or you can find them earlier if you want up on the website, www.theffforge.com. There are links in the description to those rankings. I'm sorry if that's the second time in this video I'm plugging that, but I don't think it is. Bye-bye.